Hard work, effort, training, it's garbage. These are the words of streamer and game developer in quotations, Pirate Software, also known as Thor, or his real name is Jason. But he wasn't talking about a new game mechanic he disliked or a tedious grind in an MMO. He was talking about Star Wars. Specifically, he was weighing in on one of the most contentious and debated elements of the entire franchise, midichlorians. In a stream while discussing fantasy world building, the topic of inherited power versus earned skill came up. Pirate Software used the opportunity to draw a parallel that would immediately ignite a firestorm within some Star Wars fans. Here's exactly what he said.
Yeah, look at you. You're like, oh, it's the bloodline. The bloodline's allowed for it. It's the same shit that ruined Star Wars. Midichlorians. Bullshit. Bullshit. Only the people with the cool blood can cast magic. No, bullshit. Bullshit. Garbage. Hard work. Effort. Training. Sorcerers are bullshit. Midichlorians are bullshit. Jedi are bullshit. It's garbage. It's all garbage.
To many fans of the Star Wars prequels, this wasn't just a critique, it was a dismissive mockery of a core concept laid down by George Lucas, comparing the biological basis for force sensitivity to demonic parentage. For a creator who built his brand on deep analytical thinking, the comment was seen by many in the Star Wars fandom as reductive, inflammatory, and a hot take just designed to provoke. But for a growing number of online spectators, this was simply business as usual. This incident is not an isolated outburst, but rather the latest flashpoint in a long and complex series of public controversies for Pirate Software. From accusations of sabotage in World of Warcraftroaching out, to the alleged cheating in a beloved puzzle game, and now a public war against the consumer rights movement, Stop Killing Games, the story of Pirate Software has become a case study in how a public persona can be defined by perpetual drama. Today we're going to provide a factual, chronological recount of the events that have led him to this point, starting with the controversy that has caused the most significant and lasting damage to his reputation. The War on Stop Killing Games. In early 2024, the Stop Killing Games initiative, which was a consumer advocacy movement spearheaded by the YouTuber Ross Scott of Accursed Farms, gained significant traction. The movement's primary goal is straightforward: to advocate for legislation that would prevent video game publishers from rendering games unplayable by shutting down essential servers, especially in cases where the game is primarily a single-player experience, but requires online authentication to function. The movement argues that if a consumer buys a product, they should have the right to use it indefinitely, regardless of a publisher's ongoing support. As the initiative gained momentum and public support, Pirate Software entered the conversation. On March 4th, 2024, he released a video titled, "Stop Killing Games is a Bad Idea." In this video and in subsequent streams and follow-ups, he laid out his opposition. His core arguments were that the initiative's goals were technologically and legally unfeasible, that forcing publishers to maintain servers indefinitely or release server code would be prohibitively expensive, stifle innovation, and ultimately harm both developers and the industry as a whole. He posited that such regulation would discourage publishers from taking risks on new online games. The response from the community was swift and overwhelmingly negative. Critics, including Ross Scott himself, produced detailed rebuttals, accusing Pirate Software of fundamentally misrepresenting the initiative's goals. They argued that he was creating a straw man, suggesting that the movement wanted to keep all multiplayer servers for games like Fortnite running forever, when the focus was primarily on games sold as single-purchase products being made completely inaccessible. They pointed out that the initiative offered multiple solutions, such as patching out online check-ins or releasing server code to the community upon a game's end of life, solutions that they claimed Pirate Software either ignored or unfairly dismissed. The drama escalated as Pirate Software doubled down. Instead of engaging with the criticism, he was perceived as becoming more dismissive and arrogant. The most cited example of this came during a stream where he addressed the backlash. When a chatter asked if he would apologize to Ross Scott for misrepresenting his argument, Paul's response became infamous.
Put up a video saying you were wrong with every situation and the internet move on? I am not doing that. I don't give a Yeah, simply bend the knee and lie about how you feel and everyone will stop bullying you. That's a great idea, dude. Yeah, no.
This moment crystallized the opposition against him. For many, it was no longer a simple disagreement on policy. It was seen as a case of a large creator using his platform to spread misinformation about a grassroots movement and then contemptuously dismissing any and all criticism. The fallout was tangible. His YouTube channel experienced a massive wave of unsubscriptions, losing tens of thousands in a matter of days. Nearly every video he posted for weeks after was met with a significant dislike ratio and a deluge of critical comments referencing the controversy. In later streams, he would attempt to reframe the narrative, claiming that his opposition was actually beneficial to the Stop Killing Games movement. He argued that by becoming a villain, he gave the movement a single clear antagonist to rally against, thereby generating more publicity for their cause than they could have ever achieved on their own. This explanation was widely rejected by his critics as self-serving and an attempt to sidestep accountability for his actions and that the damage that they perceived that he had caused. The Stop Killing Games saga remains his most significant controversy, a turning point that alienated a huge portion of the broader gaming audience and set the stage for intense scrutiny of his past and future actions. Many people already hated the guy, and this just gave them more reason to finally voice their opinions. Allegations of inauthenticity, the Outer Wilds incident. Before his war on the consumer movement, Thor's credibility was already challenged in a very different arena. Although nobody knew it at the time, this only came out later. The controversy centers on his 2023 playthrough of the critically acclaimed game Outer Wilds, which I hear is an amazing game, although I haven't played it yet. Outer Wilds is a game built entirely on exploration and discovery. The player unravels a complex mystery by finding clues and connecting disparate pieces of information across a small solar system. The joy of the game comes from the aha moment, when the player genuinely solves the puzzle themselves. During his streams, Pirate Software cultivated an image of a hyper-intelligent and analytical puzzle solver. He would often preface his problem solving with the catchphrase, "In this house, we solve puzzles," reinforcing the idea that solutions were the product of pure, unaided intellect. However, viewers and other content creators began to notice inconsistencies. They observed that Pirate Software would often arrive at correct and sometimes highly complex solutions based on reasoning that seemed illogical or with information he seemingly hadn't yet acquired from the actual game itself. Allegations began to surface that he was looking up the solutions off stream and then recreating the moment of discovery live for his audience just to bolster his identity as an intellectual man. Compilations of clips were assembled and shared online purporting to show evidence of this, and in these clips, critics pointed to the moments where his in-game actions seemed to preempt discoveries or where stated logical leaps were in fact non sequiturs that coincidentally led to the correct answer. Or in other words, he found the solutions to puzzles without having any reason to do so from the actual game. For his critics, this was a profound act of dishonesty. It wasn't just about a game, it was about his authenticity. They argued that he was knowingly deceiving his audience to bolster his brand as a brilliant developer and gamer. If he was willing to fake his way through a puzzle game for clout, what else was he being inauthentic about? Maybe his game dev experience? That's a hint. All these allegations remain unproven in the definitive sense, nobody can really prove it. The volume of circumstantial evidence and the detailed analysis from the community were enough to sow significant doubt. The Outer Wilds incident became a key piece of evidence for those who saw a pattern of disingenuous behavior, an accusation that would echo loudly during his later controversies. Moving on, we have the foundations of the controversy. The World of Warcraftroaching incident. This is what really kicked it all off and really started the tumble of his reputation. To understand the community's readiness to believe the worst of Pirate Software, we have to go back further to one of the first major incidents that shaped his public reputation, the World of Warcraftroaching incident. The setting was World of Warcraft's hardcore server, a game mode with one simple but brutal rule. If your character dies, it is permanent. Your account is pretty much deleted and you can't access it again. This high-stakes environment places an enormous emphasis on teamwork, caution, and trust. During a dungeon run with his guild Onlyfangs, Thor's group found themselves in a perilous situation with a boss when a boss was accidentally pulled, one that was very, very dangerous. What happened next became legendary for all the wrong reasons. As the party scrambled to react, Pirate Software, playing a mage, a class with powerful survival abilities like Blink, a short-range teleport, and Ice Block, a spell granting temporary invulnerability, used his toolkit for one purpose only, his survival. In fact, he actually even drained his own mana so that he could say, without being fully lying, that he didn't have enough mana to save his teammates. Instead of trying to help control the enemies or save his teammates, he did one thing, and that was bolt the hell out of that dungeon. This led to a few members of the team being absolutely wiped out and died, and of course they lost their hardcore status, meaning they lost their accounts. They lost so many hours that they put in to get to the max level of World of Warcraft, which is 60 I think, I'm not a WoW player, but that is so many hours lost, all to arrogance. And he was like, nah. The shot caller called leave, so we all leave. Or every man for himself. The community immediately dubbed this behavior roaching, the act of scurrying away to save oneself like a cockroach while leaving everyone else behind. The in-game action, while unsportsmanlike, was only part of the problem. It was his reaction to the subsequent backlash that did the most damage. In the aftermath, Pirate Software refused to take any accountability. He deflected blame onto his party members, arguing that they were at fault for the accidental pull and that his actions were the only logical choice. To his critics, this was a profound betrayal of the cooperative spirit of not just hardcore WoW, but multiplayer gaming in general, and it really showed that he was so arrogant, and it just uncovered the facade that he was an intelligent, smart game developer, and it just showed that he was an arrogant man with no experience and no know-how.
Everyone can do something better, but when you open up and you yell over another person like you were doing earlier,
speak?
Nah, I'm good.
You
See ya. I'm not doing that shit again with him. Nah, he did it the first time, I'm not doing it a second one.
Overall, this established the narrative that has followed him ever since, that of a person who prioritizes his own interests above all else and refuses to accept responsibility when his actions negatively impact others. The roaching incident became the foundational story, the go-to example for critics who would later point to a consistent pattern of behavior across multiple controversies. And finally, that brings us to the conclusion. From the dungeons of Azeroth to the mysteries of space, From consumer rights advocacy to the lore of a galaxy far, far away, the story of Pirate Software is one of perpetual conflict. His recent mockery of Star Wars prequel fans and the concept of midichlorians is not the start of the controversy, but merely the latest branch on a tree with deep roots. He's had so many more that I couldn't even mention in this video because of the content matter I don't want to get banned, but there are many other good YouTubers who have covered it. But he's cultivated a brand as a highly intelligent, brutally honest, and technically proficient developer. All of this was just fake. His supporters saw him as a knowledgeable, entertaining figure who wasn't afraid to speak his mind, or even if it's unpopular. That has all fallen apart now. From the roaching incident to Stop Killing Games, to the DMCA request, his code being absolutely terrible, his game really never coming out, this facade has fallen. So what are your thoughts on the long history of this drama? Is it justified? Can you still be a fan of his after all this? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want me to cover more topics like this, let me know in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. If you made it this far, drop a signed Stop Killing Games in the comments down below.